Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar from BioInformatics, Environmental Sustainability Initiatives in the Life Sciences, Understanding Consumer Perceptions. I'm Shelby Jones, Event Manager for Science and Medicine Group, and before we get started, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. First, if you experience any issues throughout the broadcast, please feel free to chat them in and I will work to help you fix them. Second, this presentation will be available on demand after the webinar has concluded, along with information about the report reference. An email will be sent to you with information to access that. Third, we will be taking time to answer questions at the end of the broadcast, so please submit your questions to the Q&A section at any time throughout the broadcast. Leading us in today's discussion is April Nedeshims, Project Manager and Science Advisor for Science and Medicine Group. April manages custom market research projects for the company. She has a background in life science research, specifically biotechnology, and she is responsible for assessing client needs and communicating actionable insights. April, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Shelby. Hello, everyone. As Shelby mentioned, my name is April, and I am a Project Manager Science Advisor here at BioInformatics. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk about one of our recent publications on environmental sustainability initiatives in the life sciences. In this study, we aim to understand the consumer perception of environmental sustainability and challenges that they face when implementing more sustainable solutions. This webinar is intended to give you a brief overview of the publication itself, as well as serve as an example for what we do here at BioInformatics. So let's start off with an agenda for today. We'll begin with a quick overview of who we are and what we do at BioInformatics, and then we'll go over the study objectives as well as the demographic profile of the respondents who participated. And then we'll get into the body of the report where we'll discuss some of our key findings within general perceptions of environmental sustainability, institutional environmental sustainability initiatives, perceptions of sustainable laboratory practices, and challenges faced in implementing sustainable initiatives. And then we'll leave some time at the end, as Shelby mentioned, to answer any questions you may have. So let's begin with a little bit about us. BioInformatics is part of Science and Medicine Group, and we are a research and advisory firm serving the life science industry. For many years, we have been providing custom market research studies, off-the-shelf reports, and market analyses. Through our professional network of tens of thousands of scientists, we have supported more than 500 companies by providing insights that lead to better business decisions. Today, we'll be talking about one of our newest reports. So let's dive into that, starting with an overview of the study and its objectives. The goal of the study was to understand perceptions of environmental sustainability in the life science industry from the consumer perspective. More specifically, our objectives were to understand the perceptions of environmentally sustainable laboratory consumables, evaluate the current environmental sustainability initiatives within the industry, and understand pain points experienced with implementing environmentally sustainable initiatives. In order to reach these objectives, we designed an online quantitative survey which contained a total of 39 questions and took respondents about 13 minutes to complete. We had 290 respondents in total who came from our Science Advisory Board, which is a scientific community with a demonstrated willingness to participate in market research activities. To qualify for this study, respondents must work in either academia, pharma biotech, or the industry applied market segments and live within the North America, Europe, and APAC regions. In addition, respondents must broadly use life science consumables. So that brings us to today, where we will be discussing some of our key findings from the study in this webinar. So before we get into the body of the study, I wanted to give a quick overview of the demographic breakdown of the participants. So in terms of region, 39% of respondents were from North America, with the majority of them coming from the United States. 34% 34% were from Europe and 27% were from Asia Pacific, where the majority came from India, China, and Japan. You'll notice that we use region to segment some of the results throughout the report, so this can give you an idea of what the regional breakdown looks like. Next, for organization type, 40% of respondents were from pharma biotech, 40% were from academia, and the remaining 20% were from the applied industry segment, which mostly includes commercial testing labs as well as food and beverage manufacturers. This is also a segmentation variable that we've used throughout. So on some slides, you may notice market segment, and that's referring to this organizational breakdown. And then our last set of demographics are purchase authority and job position. For purchase authority, respondents fit into one of three categories: those who are primary decision makers about which laboratory consumables to purchase, those who participate in the decision-making process, and those who make product recommendations and can influence the decision, but don't necessarily themselves make the purchase decisions. In terms of job position, most respondents were in a lab manager or director type role, followed by principal investigators, scientists, department heads, and professors. So now that we have an idea of who participated in this study, let's discuss the key findings, beginning with the general perceptions of environmental sustainability. In this section, we wanted to gauge the general importance of environmental sustainability before diving deeper into the initiatives and challenges within the industry. So to do this, we started with asking about corporate social responsibility initiatives in general. We asked respondents to rank the 4 categories of initiatives in order of importance to get an idea of where environmental responsibility falls overall. And to ensure everyone understood what each initiative included, we provided some definitions or examples under each category that you can see on the chart here. Economic responsibility ranked as the most important initiative by 35% of respondents. For environmental responsibility, which we defined to include efforts to reduce waste, recycling, and neutralizing an organization's impact, was ranked as the second most important initiative overall, and nearly 70% of respondents considered environmental responsibility as either the first or second most important initiative. Ethical responsibility was the third most important, and the lowest ranked CSR initiative was philanthropic responsibility. So this result gives us an idea of the general importance most respondents place on environmental responsibility. But next, we wanted to understand more specifically how important consumers feel it is to incorporate sustainable products within laboratory environments. So here, we had respondents rate on a scale from 0 to 10 how important they believe it is to incorporate sustainable products in labs. And so we grouped the responses 0 to 6 as not important, 7 and 8 were considered somewhat important, and 9 and 10 were considered highly important. And we found that over 85% feel that it's at least somewhat important to incorporate these products into laboratory environments. And it's especially important to those in the pharma biotech segment and those who directly participate in the decision-making process of purchasing new products for labs. Also, respondents who are willing to pay at least 10% more also play a higher percent or place a higher importance on incorporating sustainable laboratory products. So this data more specifically highlights the attitude towards sustainable lab products, and it's clear that most respondents do place at least some level of importance on incorporating them. So after understanding general perceptions of sustainable lab products, we wanted to look at current environmental sustainability initiatives in place within institutions. We started off by asking respondents if their institution had initiatives in place, and if so, we followed up with an open-ended question asking what those initiatives are. 58% recognize that their institution has implemented sustainability sustainability initiatives, and the majority of those are coming from recycling and reusing efforts. Since this was an open-ended question, we analyzed the results by finding common themes in the responses and then tallying up the responses that fit into each themed category. So that's what led us to this lollipop chart that you're seeing on the slide. We also pulled out a couple interesting quotes from these responses. One North American participant from the applied industry segment said of their institution, carbon footprints are calculated, reduction of greenhouse gases, switching over to alternative fuels, reduction of byproducts through recycling or upcycling. Another from academia stated, from the cafeteria to laboratories, the institution has practices and guidelines in place to reduce energy consumption, waste, and increase recycling. They also encourage/incentivize sourcing from suppliers with reduced packaging and shipping, reducing the waste stream. So these open-ended questions can be really interesting and often add a lot of context to our closed-ended responses, so they're always fun to look through. But now that we have an idea of the types of institutional initiatives in place, we wanted to understand how satisfied consumers are with those initiatives. So here we asked both about overall satisfaction with initiatives on the scale from 0 to 10, and then we asked about satisfaction with specific aspects of the initiatives on that same scale. And when analyzing this data, we wanted to understand how satisfaction with each element impacted respondents' overall satisfaction. And so using a bivariate correlation analysis, we could derive how important each goal is by measuring its strength of the overall satisfaction. And then we could plot each aspect on this quadrant map according to its relative satisfaction and importance. So quadrant maps are really a great way to visualize your data. Here we can see which goals are important to target for improvement, which could be monitored as opportunities for future areas of improvement, which areas to leverage as strengths in order to keep satisfaction high, and which goals to maintain as they're basically considered table stakes. And so in this case, we found that effectiveness of reducing laboratory waste is the primary opportunity for organizations to improve overall satisfactions with their initiatives. And then ease of implementing sustainability efforts is a secondary opportunity to improve satisfaction as well. Commitment to these efforts across the institution, from coworkers to the leadership team, as well as awareness of these initiatives, are areas that organizations can continue to leverage to drive their satisfaction. And finally, transparency around initiatives is a goal organizations are expected to maintain. So after gaining some insight into the satisfaction with these initiatives and opportunity areas, we wanted to understand how these initiatives are changing within the industry. So here we asked about how these efforts have changed over the last 3 years and how respondents predict they will change over the next 3 years on a scale from significantly increase to significantly decrease. So in this chart, we have overall results in the blue bars. The bar on the left shows the change over the last 3 years, and the bar on the right is the predicted change over the next 3 years. The green bars are set up the exact same way, except they are showing regional segmentation. So the darker colors on these bars represent the percentage of people who believe efforts have or will increase. So you can see that most respondents believe that sustainability efforts at their institution have increased and will continue to do so over the next 3 years. We saw some interesting regional difference here. Respondents in APAC in Europe predict a more significant increase over the next 3 years than those in North America. And North America had the largest percentage of respondents who noted no change in their organizations over the last 3 years in terms of sustainability efforts. We next wanted to dive into perceptions of specific sustainable laboratory practices in order to begin to understand what is going well and what's not going so well. So to begin, we first asked about general areas in need of improvement in terms of sustainable laboratory consumables. Respondents ranked these 4 areas in terms of needing the most improvement. And product packaging and plasticware came out on top as the areas with most room for improvement. So here we have charted the top 3 challenges ranked, and you can see 91% ranked product packaging within the top 3 and 89% ranked plasticware within the top 3, with over 40% ranking plasticware as the area in most need of improvement. We also had another option in this question where respondents could write in a free text response for an area they thought needed improvement that didn't fit one of these 4. And some of those responses included carbon footprint, sterility of reusable items, and non-plastic disposables. We next wanted to look at satisfaction with environmentally sustainable solutions for laboratory consumables among both previous and current users. For each of the solutions listed on the left side of this chart, we measured satisfaction on a scale from 0 to 10 among respondents who either previously or currently use the solution. So here we have charted only high satisfaction, which again were ratings of 9 or 10, and then they're segmented by current users in the blue and previous users in the green. We found that the average rate of high satisfaction across all solutions is 33%, which is shown by this dotted line, and generally satisfaction is lower for solutions that were previously used. Current users of sustainable solutions are most satisfied with reusable glassware in place of plastics, and satisfaction is lowest for those who use suppliers that have environmentally friendly shipping packaging, suggesting there is quite some room for improvement across most of these solutions. We next wanted to gain insights into purchasing behavior around sustainable consumables. And so we presented this statement: I recommend / purchase sustainable laboratory consumables ... And respondents could check all of the following responses that apply: when available from brands I trust, when prices are reasonable, whenever they are available, and for certain product categories. So the heat map on this slide shows the results where the darker the shade of the blue, the higher the percentage who selected that option. We also have this segmented by region and overall importance of incorporating sustainable lab products. So interestingly, most respondents agreed that they recommend sustainable consumables when available from brands that they trust and when prices are reasonable. APAC especially places strong importance on trust in brand, and those who place high importance on sustainable lab products are also the most likely to purchase those products whenever they are available. Another interesting insight that we found was that 20% of respondents who do not place high importance on using sustainable consumables do not intentionally recommend or purchase them, which is not totally surprising, but it is significantly higher than any other segment that we looked at. So this gives us an idea of how consumers approach purchasing sustainable products, but we wanted to more specifically look at willingness to pay for these products next. So we followed up by asking how much more would respondents be willing to pay for sustainable alternatives of their lab consumables, considering their current spend. And then on this chart, we have it segmented by purchase authority, and the dark blue line is showing the average overall. We found that more than half are willing to pay at least 10% more, and 13% of primary decision makers are even willing to pay 15% more for sustainable consumables. So there is a clear openness towards the higher pricing of these consumables. So finally, we wanted to look at some of the challenges consumers face in implementing more environmentally sustainable initiatives. So we started off by asking consumers to rank a list of challenges, which is shown on the left here, where 1 was the biggest challenge and cost and product quality ranked at the top. In fact, over 60% of respondents ranked both of these in their top 3 challenges faced. Product availability and risk of inconsistency in results are secondary challenges as well. And interestingly, at the bottom was being unfamiliar with environmentally sustainable options and organizational restrictions. So after looking at challenges, we wanted to follow up with asking what would encourage respondents to use more sustainable laboratory consumables. And the top response for respondents was easier to recycle these products, followed by a wider selection and better quality products. We have these results segmented by level of importance placed on sustainable lab products again, and we saw that respondents who place low importance on incorporating these products are less likely to be encouraged to adopt more sustainable consumables overall, but this group would also be more likely convinced to use them if recycling was easier and better quality. And they also mentioned reward systems from suppliers as being one of the top motivators. And that is all I have today. Again, this was just meant to highlight some insights into consumer perceptions and challenges within environmental sustainability. Thank you all so much for your attention, and we do have some time left for questions if there are any.
So April, really appreciate the insight into all of that work that you guys did. A couple questions that did come through. And again, as April mentioned, feel free to drop those in right now if you have some, and we'll make sure we get to those as well. The first one, since environmental sustainability can mean different things to different people, how do you know what respondents considered when thinking about environmental sustainability in the study?
That's a good question, and that's actually something we discussed during our survey design. So we did include a definition for our respondents at the beginning of the survey. We defined it in this case as referring to efforts to reduce the long-term impact on the environment and conserve natural resources. Also throughout the survey, we did include a hide show option. So at any point in the survey, the respondent could show that definition and refer back to it.
For answering that. The next one is, I noticed there were different segmentation in the charts throughout the study. Can you explain why?
Sure, yeah. So we often use multiple different segmentation variables in our studies so that we can look across data across different demographic or behavioral segments and then pull out any key differences. The most common variables and some that we use in this case for region and market segments, but sometimes, especially in our custom projects, a client might have a particular interest in a different demographic or behavior, and of course we can include those as well. But in terms of charting purposes and building reports, we try to look for any segmentation that highlighted unique differences. Otherwise, we would just tend to use the aggregate data.
Thank you. I see one also asking about info on purchasing the report, so I can jump in a little bit there as well, in that we will be sending that link out for more information on the report and how you can purchase it in the follow-up email. But April, is there anything else you wanted to add to purchasing the report?
Nope, I think you got it.
Perfect. So yeah, expect that information to hit you within the next hour, along with the recording of the presentation as a whole. It looks like that was our final question. So April, I want to thank you again for joining us. And sorry, I got one last one here, so we'll take the time to answer this one. The question is, was there any suggestion from the respondents that government policy influenced their decisions?
We didn't ask about government policy because I think that could have sent us down a rabbit hole being in different regions. We did ask about organizational restrictions, and that tended not to really be a factor.
Great, thank you so much. Well, again, if you do have any questions that you think of after you maybe watch the replay again, feel free to reach out to us. We will be certain to answer those for you. And again, that information on how to reach us will come with that email. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate your time. And April, again, thank you for sharing the information. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.